Nice. So
Okay. Thank you again for being part of our conference adventures today. And I'm just going to be quiet and pass it to you. Let me know what I can do to assist you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Debbie. And thanks for putting on this conference and making this a thing that we can do. So hopefully you can see I've got something warning me about infinity mirrors where I can't share my screen in my screen, but I'm not trying to do that. Great, I'm seeing people popping into the Miro. So please do come and join us in Miro. This is going to be an active session, and we're going to do some sharing of Miro screen as well over time. But it really is a get out what you get in sort of a thing. So yes. I think, are you able to put that link in the chat somewhere as well, Debbie? Chat or materials?
Yes, I can type that into the chat if people just want to click on it. Give me a moment. Bit.ly. I always get that wrong. Oh,
and someone shared the full Miro as well.
Someone's got it. All right, I'll put the short one in as well. In case
amazing. And people are seeing my little lounge space. Where I found on Unsplash a nice little mid-century modern lounge setup. And people are popping in. Yeah, well, we're introducing to this. Just stick your name in and where you're coming from. And then also I'm wondering, what's a recent moment when you thought there has to be a better way to plan than this? It's good. While we are joining there, hopefully everyone can find it. A little bit of intro. Today, you'll get a taste of a tool that helps teams move even when the path isn't clear. It's especially good when you're really not sure what you're supposed to be doing, or that, say, your leaders or your colleagues don't really know what they're doing. It's really helpful for that. And when you're finding misalignment is happening, that sort of thing. It will all become clear pretty soon, but we're going to do a little intro to the multiverse. We're going to do some activities. One is going to be just going and getting coffee. Not literally, we're going to do some sticky notes about getting coffee. You can get a coffee after the session is finished. We're going to look at the multiverse of coffees and then what to do with it. I'm going to connect it all together. Along the way, you're going to hear my kind of origin story and then how it all comes together after a fairly dismal start. What I'm asking for you from this session is ask questions as you go along. So Debbie is going to be monitoring the question and answer thingy, technical term, and we'll jump in and ask me as we go. I want to make sure that this is clear as we're moving through, and I know there's a lot of information. I'm going to go fairly quickly, so do jump in and slow me down. Lovely, under the 9 dots icon on the bottom right. Oh yes, there's so many controls in Google Meet. I really need you to jump in and have a go at the exercises when we do. It will be a little bit like, hey, what are we supposed to be doing here? That's okay. It's normal. It's always like that. It's a safe place where you can go and have a go. And if you get it wrong, it doesn't really matter. That's how we're going to learn today. And number 3, afterwards, I'd love to get feedback on what worked and what didn't work. I want these sessions to keep getting better. I want this method to spread because it's working gangbusters for me and other people who have started to use it. And I want you to get all of those wonderful results. So first thing to say is multiverse mapping isn't a framework. We've got lots of frameworks. It's not one of those. It's a fog cutting tool for when the old plans don't hold. And we'll see how later. And that's sort of setting it up with a bit of mystery. First though, have you ever been in a meeting that was so high level it felt disconnected from reality? Do people have the ability to do like hands up or some sort of thing to say, yes, I've experienced this? There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, they do have reactions. You can say emojis up.
Love it. And I think Donna has raised a hand. Is that to say yes, me, not please can I ask a question? I think so. Yeah. Great. So I asked this at conferences. The last time I asked it at a physical conference, I think every hand in the room went up. Maybe one person didn't. How about the opposite? Have you ever been in a meeting that was such a deep dive into nitty-gritty details you lost track of why you were there in the first place? Yeah, again, I normally see pretty much all the hands going up. And this is normal. I think we're wrangling with a question of granularity. Some things are like big rocks where we're talking about the outside surface, and then some attached to like tiny little gritty granules. And then there's this space in between where we've got different size rocks, and different sorts of people in your organization like dealing with different levels of granularity. And you can often get this problem of a granularity mismatch. Like that stakeholder there isn't going to be able to do much with that bus. They're at the wrong level of granularity. And so we're going to meet two characters. We've got our stand-in for your stakeholders, your sponsors, your board members, your investors. It's Team Hawk. They're flying around up in the clouds. They sometimes swoop down noisily, but generally they're flying around. They get a good overview of lots of things from a high level, but they're not down in the details at all. And they're shouting things like, let's meet the goals. We need accountability. We need a sense of urgency. Come on, everybody, we've given you the strategy. Now it's time to execute. Sound familiar? Anyone met any stakeholders like that? Nothing coming out, a few thumbs. And then down in the depths, in the murky depths, swimming around with very low visibility, dealing with the messy work that's going on, we've got Team Otter. And there you stand in for your builder types. So we've got designers, researchers, developers, data analysts, business analysts, all the people who are doing the day-to-day work with their hands on. And I don't know about you, but I've often felt that we in that world are feeling lost a little bit some of the time. We're stuck with unclear priorities. We're saying, hey, Hawks, the strategy feels kind of vague, and why aren't you listening to us? But we're under the water. Swimming around, they can't hear us. And we're lost in the murk trying to figure stuff out. And in between, there's this enormous divide, this huge gap. We're going to look a little bit about how we're going to fill that gap in. But first, we're jumping into our first exercise. We're going to tell a story of ordering coffee. And I'm going to switch my screen. See if I can do this efficiently. Boosh. And we're going to scroll over in our big Miro board. And we can see that we've got a bunch of different rooms here. These are going to be the breakout rooms. And each of you is going to get assigned to a breakout room, I presume at random. If you're assigned to breakout room 1, you're going to head to the board for room 1, and you're going to be in a group with some other people. And there you're going to see that you're going to start telling a simple story going left to right. And so we're starting with 2 layers to this. So with your group, you're going to discuss what does it take to get coffee. Are you going to start where you are, which is you're in an unfamiliar city and you want to get coffee? This is a person plus their kind of purpose, their situation as well. You're going to start where you are. You're going to finish telling the story when you're sipping a delicious coffee. And you're going to use these green stickies to tell a left to right story about getting a coffee. And you add as many stickies as you need, you know, so 6 to 3. And the rule is you're telling a WOXAD story. That is what one person sees and does. Use simple words and tell the story from your perspective there on the street in the city. Now, when there are different options for how you'd think about getting coffee, that's fine, have a discussion. If you'd each choose something different, or if somebody doesn't like coffee, that's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but you know, get your priorities straight. Coffee's great, but agree on one story that gets the job done well enough for like one of you, I suppose. So far so clear. We are going to jump in and we're going to set up your breakout rooms, and you're just going to jump in and with your group start telling a story. We're going to do this fairly quickly. We're going to have like 5 minutes, so there isn't time to spend ages getting it perfect. Just get something down and we'll see how we're doing. Any questions before we dive in?
How many breakout rooms should I make?
Let's go for 5 breakout rooms, so we should have like 3 or 4 people in each one, right?
Let's see, if I make 5 rooms, it made actually there'd be 7s. There would be 7s in it looks like it's 4 rooms of 7, 3 rooms of 7 plus 1, just because we have a few people who seem to be away from computer.
Okay, cool. So 3 rooms of 7 people.
Yeah, let me just check.
I wonder, could we do 5 rooms, or is that?
Yeah, hold on. Sorry, I'm slow at this. Okay.
That's okay.
Breakout rooms, set them up. 5. 5 breakout rooms. Okay, let me just move a few people around.
Just wondering if anyone here, I'm just looking down the names, has anyone done this before? I've had a few people go through this exercise, but I don't think so.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let me, not easy to move people around. Okay. Let's see, I've got a 5 and a 4 and a 7 and a 6. Can I do that for now?
Let's roll with that.
All right, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
so it's
roll.
up to you lot in your rooms to navigate through managing the people that you've got with you. And we're going to have a nice pacey 5 minutes to just tell that story. Any questions before we rock and roll?
I'm gonna open the room, so good luck, everybody.
Let's go.
Okay. You should be able to see it as the host if you click on the 9 dots and then breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Are you able to see it?
Oh yes, I can see it. Marvelous. Yeah. And they're slightly different from
Yeah,
other
it's
tools.
definitely not as easy as Zoom, but I didn't want to pay for Zoom.
That's fair.
Fancy that. Yeah.
It's not the cheapest, and I'm not sure they're the nicest company, having seen
Yeah,
them.
there's right. So it looks like some people haven't joined rooms, and that's fine. They don't have to. So it looks like breakout room has 3. Well, breakout room 1 has 3, room 2 has 5, room 3 has 3, and room 4 has 3. And nobody went to 5. So, and a few people just didn't go at all, which they're totally allowed to not go at all. So
yeah, that is good. Now we get to see everybody's cursors moving around.
yeah, hopefully they're getting it together. And I'll just watch your timer. And once the timer goes off, I'll close the breakout rooms.
Perfect. Very good. Oh, I see the Q&A is up there as well. That's great.
Yep.
Oh, looks like some banging questions from the earlier sessions as well.
Oh, yeah. There were some good questions for some good sessions. Ooh, I forgot to mark that question answered. Yeah, you can also sort them by unanswered, so I can easily focus on that.
Nice. You can do the pending ones first.
There shouldn't be any pending because I don't have them set. No, it's just all answered, unanswered, and hidden. So I guess you can hide some if someone says something inappropriate.
Nice. Oh, that's good. Cool. So yeah, we can make it show unanswered for if things are coming in.
The downside is if we need breakout rooms again, I don't remember who was where.
I think that's okay to. It might remember for us. And if not, they can work on other people's boards as well. That's fine.
That's the downside for the thing I already paid for. So we'll have to see. Might have to, because tomorrow's all workshops. I might have to write down who's where and then manually do it every time they want to break out.
Oof, that seems pretty brutal. On the flip side, with Zoom, I found out that once people have been put into breakout rooms, it's extraordinarily difficult to mix it up again.
Yeah, there's even a shuffle button here. So it's like we could purposefully shuffle people, but What if you want the opposite? So I don't know if we try to do a breakout room again, if it will remember where people were.
I guess we'll find out as we
Yeah,
go.
I don't know.
Does this do
Apologies
the
in advance.
instant? Does it do the instant kick out, this one, or does it give you time?
I honestly don't know. That's a good question. But I'm going to wait till your timer goes off and then I'll click close rooms. But knowing Google, close rooms would be close rooms. No warning.
That is very Google.
That's my guess. Abrupt room closure.
This is good. We seem to have a couple of groups going gangbusters.
Yeah, room 3 looks like it ended up a little bit quiet. I mostly see Ian there, so I'd know what happened to Shannon and John.
Yeah, but that's cool. We've still got we've got 3 rooms rocking, so that's good.
Yeah, you'll have some things you can refer to. Okay, countdown is on, and I'll close the rooms. Okay, close rooms. Oh, it is 30 seconds. So they're going to get 30 seconds and then they'll come back. Now we know.
That is good. I always think it's interesting to notice who comes back before the deadline and who waits until they're forcibly ejected.
Oh, and then I can click it again and I can force everybody back. So.
Oh, can you just like boom, get them kicking out?
Yeah, first you get 30 seconds and then you just get no freaking close it. So. All right, I'll mute again and let you do your thing.
Lovely. One thing I forgot to check. Is it possible for other people to unmute and say something?
I think now that I made them contributors, they'll be able to unmute and or turn on cameras. We just want to remember this is being recorded and not everyone will be comfortable turning on cameras or speaking. So we just want to make that optional.
Yeah, totally optional. I'm just interested to know, as people are returning, how did you find that exercise?
Yeah, if people want to unmute and say something to Tom, you can.
Cool. JB's raised a hand.
Yeah, it was interesting because we had all of the different attitudes and different approaches. We had some type A's, some type B's in the group. So I think we diplomatically managed to filter out and get the task done to a certain level.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Oh yeah, well, we've got a group here who've gone rogue already. Nice. So yeah, I think
those people are cheating.
They are cheating.
They're still working on it.
Yeah. I think everyone's back, but they're still. Are we still working? We can stop now. That's good. I like this. This is when you work with like designers and UX people and people who come to Debbie's things, you've got to expect some chaos in the workshops, I think. Some rule breaking. That's why I love you. So great. We've got an example here. Wake up in an unfamiliar city. I suppose you could. You might be at a hotel or something and then need coffee. Don't know where to get it. So then Google nearest coffee shop, check the reviews, look at the photos and choose one. Walk there. Cool. We've got that far. And otherwise, if there's no connection, they're thinking about you could ask someone on the street, etc., etc. Lovely. If we go to the next group, what did they go for? Scan the street to look for a coffee shop. Interesting. I've never heard that one before. Just look and see. Is there one right there? Or consult Google Maps. And we're already seeing some people exploring options here. Choose a place, find it, go there, decide whether to go in, then go in, scan the menu, order a coffee, wait, get the coffee, find a spot and drink your coffee. Nice. And then we've got, I think this was Ian by himself, so thanks, Ian. Google the best coffee shops, pick one, cycle to coffee shop, order and sip. I love that you definitely know you have your bike with you in an unfamiliar city. And then we've got go online and look at reviews, decide to go to coffee shop or get it delivered. If they go to the store, they look at the menu, decide how they want the coffee, how strong they want, etc. Place the order, give name for order, wait for item. Great. So we're seeing there's not one uniform story there, though you lot have done quite consistent. But one thing that I notice is you've all picked a sort of Starbucksy style coffee shop where You go to the shop, you see the menu, you order at the bar, you pay, then you get your drink and you sit down. But there are other options as well. You might be in a city where that's not the thing, that's not the way it works. You might be somewhere where you go into the cafe, you sit down at a table, there's a menu, you order a coffee, they bring you the coffee, then you drink the coffee, then you pay the bill. So there are no, there's no one way to do this right, I think is the important thing. And if I jump back to the other window, does that work? There we go. Did that work? Yeah. There are many ways to order a coffee and no single right answer. And as we saw from some of your maps, people are already starting to like divide and try different approaches depending on what you've got there. Now, the important thing is we were acting from the position of the person buying a coffee in this story that we told. But if you want to sell coffee, then it's important that you have a shared theory of success. So there may be many customers who have many different ways of making coffee, of buying coffee, but you need to know which one you want to support. Which user behaviors do you want to support? And which user behaviors, importantly, do you thoroughly rely on? We're now going to see that this is the missing element in that map earlier with the hawks and the otters. Oh, how did that happen? That's not the right slide. That's some weird other slides that shouldn't be there. Excuse me. So do you remember Team Hawk, the stakeholders, and Team Otter, the builders? So this is the origin story now from me, and I'm going to tell a story, and we need to know a little bit about this weird sort of car finance thing that we have in the UK, and it's called a PCP. I don't even know what it stands for, but the idea is you lease a car and you pay a monthly payment and you have the car. And at the end of 3 years, you can choose to pay the remaining lump sum, which is called a balloon, or you can give the car back and you don't have the car anymore. And this is called PCP financing. Now, at the time, I was working with a company who were really good at doing finance, and they were quite an ethical thing. It was peer-to-peer. It was all sort of very creative. And they successfully brought down interest rates for lots of people to make loans that were a little bit less predatory, a lot less predatory than some of the loans you'll see out there. So great. They looked at this PCP car financing and they thought, wow, that is really predatory. It's got very high interest rates. That's not a good deal. We think we could give people a much better rate. So when they get to the end of their PCP financing period, we could then finance the balloon payment, which can be like tens of thousands of pounds. We could finance that and they'd get a better rate with us than if they carried on with their PCP. This is a really good idea. We want to get into the car market, etc. So let's build that. So what we've got is this idea that they want to expand into more markets with a niche in auto finance. And they've come up with an initiative, which is we're going to build a balloon finance service. Forgive me if that finance explanation was wild. It doesn't really matter if you don't know it. The important thing is the otters, they knew how to make finance systems to give people loans for stuff. So they figured, well, we need car finance lists. We need to do all these tasks. We're going to do stuff like design a seamless flow. They had a really nice UX for the application process. They ran credit checks really nicely. They could link it with car finance. They figured out, and that's a thing they'd have to figure out the APIs for. They were really good at risk analysis. They were really good at issuing credit. They had good compliance. And then there was some other stuff that they figured, well, we're going to have to do some legal docs and owner transferring for the car. Okay, we can figure this out. Now, one of the problems is the high-level goals. I don't know if anyone's experienced this. The high-level goals are often actually slightly blurry. Even though Team Hawk think they're being incredibly clear with their screeching, it doesn't always make it through the water to the otters. And it can seem a little bit vague. And sometimes some of the high-level goals are actually just needing to show we're doing something, being in a bit of a panic, thinking the strategy is good, now we need to do execution. Can you execute, etc. And they often tell themselves story like, we'll learn by getting this into the market. It's all about faster delivery. Those sorts of stories, and stories you can think about later, are quite popular in the world of tech. What they sort of miss is that we're seeing granularity again. So we talked about granularity earlier. We've got these big chunks at the top, big goals, and then we've got these tiny details at the bottom. This is just a beginning of the sort of work that was involved. Each of these breaks down into smaller granules as well, there's a lot of them. So Team Otter are dealing with all these details. Team Hot don't want to deal with the details. They're dealing with these big chunks. But in the middle, there's this small problem that our success with these goals depends on the behaviors of people and systems that are outside our control. Team Otter were jumping into stuff that they control, that they're comfortable with, that they know they need to do, and they can get on with doing some nice work. But we're missing out Team Squirrel. And Team Squirrel are the people who are outside of our control. Pick squirrels because they're cute. We love squirrels. But also they will mess up your stuff. They will steal your grain. They'll work around all of your anti-squirrel devices or your please go here squirrel type devices. And they're just a menace, but they're a cute menace. And they're standing in for customers and partners and third-party systems that you rely on. But then they're a bit flighty and they're not there all of a sudden. So now we've got our 3 teams. We've got our stakeholders up in the sky. We've got Team Otter diving down into the depths. And we've got Team Squirrel scampering about, not doing what we want them to do. And here we are. These things are in our control. These things aren't. But our success depends on Team Squirrel doing some stuff at this point. So we're going to tell the story, like we did for coffee, of Team Squirrel, and we'll see how that affects things. So they're going to need to come to the end of their lease. They've got this PCP thing. They need to get to the end of it before they can refinance. Great. They need to decide to do a refinance. Now Team Otter is starting to go, hang on a minute. We don't quite know whether this is happening or where that's happening. This is something we haven't really done. We didn't think of that. Now Team Squirrel needs to, now they've decided they're going to refinance. They need to look for refinancing options. And they need to find our service from where they're looking. And we've still got more question marks. Do we know how to do this? Then when they find our service, they're going to get a quote. We're great at that. Sorted. We're happy again. They're going to be approved. Fantastic. That's risk analysis pricing. And they're going to take the offer. That's something that we're pretty comfortable with. So that's all nice. What we're going to now, we can also think that this might go wrong at any stage. What if Team Squirrel don't do one of these things? We're going to look at that now for our coffee example. So what happens if instead of going into the coffee shop, you don't go into the coffee shop? We're going to jump back into our stories. Some of you are going to need to clean up your story. So it is just one story on the green line. And we're just going to add some orange stickies for what could go wrong. This is fairly quick. So we'll go back into breakout rooms and we will do just, I think, 2 minutes on that. Any questions before we do?
I clicked on breakout rooms. I hope it's going to put people back in the same rooms. I make no promises. So
if you don't end up in the same room, no worries. You can just work on the map you end up with.
I just want to make sure all we're doing is adding sticky notes to each of the sticky notes of what could go wrong for each of those steps.
That's right. So a little branch off to
sure.
the side, just an orange sticky. Exactly.
All right.
Little arrows are a bonus if you can make them work.
Did you say 2 minutes?
2 minutes. Yeah, we'll go quick and furious.
All right. I'm going to send everybody there, and apologies if you end up somewhere else.
Fingers crossed.
I honestly don't know.
I got invited to the same one, so I think that's okay. It looks similar. Looks good.
Okay. I don't know where Alice or Alice was, so I don't know where to put her.
I was in breakout room number 2. Sorry.
You were in number 2?
Yeah. My Wi-Fi
Let
got disconnected.
Let me see if I can put you there. Nope. Now it's saying unassigned, and it says I can't move you. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
This is the low feature version, the minimum viable product, everybody.
But we love them.
And sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. I didn't know whether to give you, I didn't know what country to give you.
I'm from Portugal, but Alice is a pretty international name, so I'm lucky.
Alice.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Alice, yeah.
Okay. No, because in here in Italy it would be Alice.
Yeah. Here in Portugal, we have like more nasal sounds. So
Well, we'll dump everybody out soon, so you're not missing as much. But sorry again about that.
no worries, no worries.
I'll give them the 30-second warning.
Lovely. Perfect. Yes, good. This has gone just as I hoped.
Dun dun dun. All right, I'll go back on mute.
Ending soon. See everybody start flying back in. Cool. Quick question then. How did it feel with everything going wrong like that? Normally I have more shouting on these, but that's okay. I think I'm going to jump in and say you've done exactly what people do, because people are very smart. And what people tend to do is not just say that something went wrong, but come up with a reason why it went wrong. So don't speak the local language meant you couldn't ask someone on the street, or Google nearest coffee shop, you're located in an area with difficult access. Check the reviews are terrible. So at each step along the way, what we've started to do in this example is tell stories about why it went wrong, not just that it went wrong. So I'm going to jump down to this one because it's this one is shorter. We can see here, go online. We've got internet isn't working. There are no coffee shops nearby. So we're telling stories already about why it might have gone wrong. What I'm going to do is do a quick copy of this. And what I originally was looking for, oh, here's the trick. We're going to separate what went wrong from why it went wrong. So we're going to say, just don't look at reviews. They don't do that. Or they don't decide. Or they don't look at the menu. Cool. So you've got there these very simple things there. What we might do then is say instead, let's say look at the menu. Or here we'll say don't decide. So we've got very simple goes wrongs. What we're now going to do is grab some things that were hidden up here. So we've got some other colors, and we're going to start adding something on instead. And here we're going to say they don't like anything on the menu. Well, that's a story about why it might go wrong. And here we might say, oh, there isn't any oat milk. So they don't decide because there isn't oat milk. They have a specific, there's a specific sort of need that they have to meet. So we could generalize that, but let's say that's the story. We can have hundreds of these stories. Can anyone think of anything else? What else might stop them deciding? Just type into the chat if you can, or unmute and shout out if you feel comfortable. Too many options. That's a nice one. Yeah, too many options on the menu. Oh yeah, maybe it's a city where they make coffee that's weird and you can't get your vanilla oat latte. Yeah. That's a nice one. Yeah, maybe on the menu there's just a sign that the machine's broken, machine's out of order. Love that one, Anna. So suddenly we start to see there's all sorts of stuff. Yeah, cafe's hostile environment. Cafe feels hostile. Boom, right, there you go. Don't find what they usually drink. Unfamiliar options. Amazing. Yeah. Cafe not clean. Right. Great. So all the way here, we are now telling stories about Team Squirrel. Team Squirrel here, if this is true and they don't decide, we could tell all these stories about why they might not decide, why they might be spinning us off, why they might leave our story at this point, because all of these orange ones are like leaving the story. Now, for Team Squirrel, that's fine. They might just go to another coffee shop or something like that. I remember being in Paris and being shocked that you couldn't get decent coffee anywhere. And we ended up going to McDonald's and having McDonald's coffee, which was really sad. But there you go. If we are the cafe owner and we're thinking, what could we do about all of these stories? We can then start thinking about options for action. So if we think that the squirrel, our Team Squirrel, doesn't like anything that's on the menu, well, what could we do? What's something we could do to mitigate that or to clarify that? So our options for action are either going to mitigate or clarify each of the stories that we've told. Offer new options, yeah, so we could offer new options. I suggest one straight away as well. We could ask people what who are leaving, what they were looking for. So there's another idea. That's a clarify. We've got to mitigate, we've got to clarify. I immediately think when offer new options, like, well, I don't know which options to offer. What are the squirrels after? There isn't any oat milk. That one's easy, isn't it? Just buy oat milk. Do a tour of other cafes. That's nice. See what the competition is doing. Too many options on the menu. Competitive review. Yeah, that's a competitive review, like you say. Have more drinks available. That won't help with too many options on the menu. Good, love it. Oh, nice. That's a nice idea, Diana. This is great. So we can just jump in and people can start adding stuff to this quite comfortably. Now, what we see is just for one step on this map, this is one thing that's gone wrong, and we've got loads of stories for why it might have got wrong, and then we're going to get even more options for what we could do about that, which is pretty wild, isn't it? That's going to be quite wild. But it's okay. I'll tell you why it's okay. We're going to jump back to the other window. So all we did here was add some simple bad multiverse outcomes. We then started adding stories and options. So we've got this simple bad multiverse outcome, and here's where the multiverses come in. The green shows the best universe for us, the cafe owner. In this case, we're playing the hawks and possibly the otters at the same time because we're baristas and we're running the cafe. We're telling a story about what the squirrel does, and in the green universe, they're doing everything that we want. And it's working out brilliantly. And then there's loads and loads of orange bad multiverses where it goes wrong and we don't see that squirrel ever again. And in each of those places where it can go wrong, we're then doing a micro pre-mortem. We're just breaking down, well, let's say that went wrong. Why did it go wrong? And we're telling stories. The reason we do this is because brains are really good at coming up with stories. And we saw when we did the exercise, we naturally, in the orange sticky, started telling stories about why it's going wrong. And that's absolutely fine. I did have a time in my career when I tried to stop people telling stories and committing the narrative fallacy for saying we knew why users were doing things. And what I found is they just stopped telling me the stories that they were telling themselves. They're still doing them, and so was I, because your brain just does it for you. You can't beat your brain. So what you do instead is come up with more stories, which scrambles your tendency to stick to one story and believe that that is true and go and confirmation bias that story. So instead we tell multiple stories and we get the whole team involved in coming up with stories. And you saw straight away, just thinking of reasons why somebody wouldn't choose something off a menu, you could come up with loads of ideas, and you'll find that when you're working with teams, they will come up with loads of ideas for stories. And then you come up with loads of options for action. And as I said, those mitigate or clarify. So one of the best things you can do, this really opens the door if you've got places which are struggling to get on board with the idea of doing research or experimentation. Well, this is a way to slip it in the back door without calling it research. You're not saying we're doing fancy research. You're saying, well, we don't know which of these is true. Should we go and look? Should we go and ask some people as they're leaving our shop? Or should we go and do some competitor review or something like that? And I found that this just cracks open the door to doing genuine research in a way that really helps. And it also ends debates, because we don't need to debate who's right about why people aren't doing things. We just keep adding all the stories. We get loads of options. So the reason this is important is there is no one root cause for most things that we're dealing with. There's sometimes a root cause. Good question. Is it another way of doing pre-mortems? Yes, it is. It's deliberately, it sort of flips it on its head, because I don't know if you found this. I'm just pausing here and we'll say about pre-mortems. When I run an official pre-mortem, people come and it's all very serious and we do the pre-mortem and then nothing really happens afterwards. We've done the pre-mortem, we've found some of the obvious failures. We tend to focus on failure modes like the launch went wrong or the server had a problem or blah, blah, blah. And they tend to be quite executional problems. We don't get at the problems of at this level of granularity where Team Squirrel isn't doing what we hoped they would do. And so I found that by doing the micro pre-mortem, we're using the trickery of the pre-mortem, which is a brilliant idea from Gary Klein, but we're zeroing in on the stuff that really matters to us. And one of the major tricks here is focus on the places in the map where you're most uncertain. So as you saw, we started telling stories and we were going to have an absolute explosion of stories. If you're telling stories about every single step along your multiverse map, you will have more stickies than you know what to do with and people get overwhelmed. We're not creating all of those stories. We're not creating all of the options for action. They all exist already. We're just writing them down, but people don't tend to like it. So the trick is to start with the places on the map where you're the most uncertain, where you have the least confidence that you know how it's going to go. And if you start telling stories there, you're also going to zoom in on the places where you've got the most leverage. You've got the most possibility to find exciting new ideas, and you've also got the most risk that could blow you up. So it's like a double bonus. Good. So we're going to create many options for action, even by zeroing in. We're going to choose the options with the highest leverage for reducing uncertainty. And those will often be either some sort of research or some sort of very lightweight experimental probe where you're going to do something for real at a small scale in order to see what actually happens. And we'll look at an example of that right now. So here we are back with our balloon financing opportunity. And we're seeing here Team Squirrel not doing the things we hoped. So not refinancing the balloon, not actually looking for options, but choosing an existing one. I've broken my own rules here. Not finding our service, not getting a quote, not getting approved, or not taking the offer. So suddenly, when we show this to stakeholders, we see, wow, there's actually a load of ways this could go wrong. And it feels quite likely that it might go wrong. Maybe we need to do something about this. We then see, where are we most uncertain? Well, it's these places. We realize we actually don't know much about this. So maybe we should focus there. I've just made space to start putting in stories. So we start with this one. We're going to tell some stories. Well, why would they not refinance their balloon? Maybe they just get another PCP loan. Maybe they just do that. Or maybe they do pay it off. Maybe they've been saving for the whole 3 years, so they're ready to pay off that lump sum. We just don't know. Or maybe it's something we don't even know about. After the last time I did this, I remembered, I thought of an idea and I've forgotten it again. So there are many stories that we could tell here. Now we'll look at the options we could get. So just get another PCP. Well, we could pivot our company to offering PCP. Now I can say straight away, the company did not want to do that. That was not an option they wanted to take, but it's still an option that is available to us if we wanted to go through those regulatory hurdles and set all of that up. So that's fine. Or, well, if people are paying it off as a lump sum, we probably want to know about that. Maybe we could interview some PCP customers and find out. Or a power move might be to offer PCP customers our existing finance. We already knew how to do loans. We could phone some people up and offer them the finance when they're at the end of their PCP loan and see what they said. And that is the uncertainty busting option, I would say. In this case, we had the ability to do it relatively cheaply, but we need to come up with a plan for this. So we're going to make that plan small and we'll make it small and practical. So Team Otter here could have said, hey, while we start building this, because we've got to start building, obviously, we've got to keep the developers busy, we could also grab car finance lists, which we're going to have to do anyway. We could phone up 100 potential customers and offer to quote them for refinancing using the existing system, which most of which we're going to have to do anyway. We're going to have to figure out how to offer this and what to say in the marketing and all that sort of stuff. We could do this over the phone fairly quickly. And to make sure we're being strategic about it, let's say we'll pivot if fewer than 20 out of 100 people agree to even get a quote where there's no risk to it or anything like that. And maybe we'll pivot if then fewer than 4 out of 100 people who are at the point when they need to refinance their balloon decide to go ahead with it. And we can take that to Team Hawk and say, what do you think? We're connecting this with your strategy. What Team Hawk will often think is, wow, this is a high-level strategic conversation. I'm not used to this from Team Otter. They're normally complaining about technical debt. So they will say something, one of these options I tend to see. So one is, yes, let's do that. But actually, you're over-egging it. We only need to see 2 out of 100 to feel confident enough to build this. It's actually, you're setting your bar a little bit too high. But we're talking not about long-term, future, distant, wishful hopes and goals. We're talking about, if we phone 100 people this week, what do we need to see to feel confident enough to keep building this thing? It's a totally different conversation. These, in case anyone's come across them, this is what I call pivot triggers, and there's a whole lot of stuff on the internet about them as well. The other thing that Team Hawk might say is, yeah, let's do that, but actually we reckon you can get 7 out of 100 to take this finance, and that's the level we need to see. We need to be more aggressive with this, and if we don't get that, maybe we should pivot in that case. This is great. You're having a conversation about when you might change your mind, when you might decide not to do this thing. Almost nobody has those conversations. So then another thing you might hear, and this is also not uncommon, do you know what? Actually, even if nobody takes the finance when we phone 100 people up, we're still building this stuff for reasons. People have reasons. Stakeholders have secret private reasons that they can't tell you. Like they might just need to show investors that we're shipping stuff, it's just happening, or they might have promised it to an important partner and they're not going to tell us about it. And you won't find out about these, but you can start to intuit them. But now we can bin the idea that we've got to get any sort of target anyway.
I'm jumping in because you have a question. Anonymous says, how do you balance mapping what could go wrong and people thinking you're a pessimist? Risk mitigation and being able to pivot are necessary, but often people don't think about the what ifs.
Oh, yeah. Well, that is something that I found very hard, and it's why all of this stuff exists. Because nobody wants to be the negative Nancy. What I've found is, and nobody wants to be that like pessimist and the difficult person. I like the term skept optimist for this. You're a skeptical optimist. You know, we can figure this out. We've got lots of options for what we could do if things go wrong. So we're not saying this is doomed, you're all dying. We're saying critical realist is good. Yeah, I like that. We're saying, hey, look, if this were not, obviously stakeholders, the world is going to be amazing and it's going to work the way you thought. But in this weird potential world where it might go slightly wrong, what would you see and what might we do about it? Let's just have a think about that. Now, one of the big tricks with multiverse mapping that doesn't come through clearly from this is, even if you don't even get to mapping all the bad worlds, laying out stories and options, doing probes, and really adapting and learning, just making the map in the first place helps your team to plan. As you saw from this example, the team Otter in this case hadn't really thought through a bunch of steps of this plan and needed to know about that before they started work anyway. So just making the map is valuable in itself. And then it kind of incepts this idea that, oh, maybe we should actually find out if those things go wrong. The other thing is make it fun. Don't take it too seriously. But speaking of taking it seriously, when you should take it seriously is if you see the final thing coming back from Team Hawk. So you come and propose this, and they say, no, we're confident in the market opportunity. It's up to you to make it happen. This is the, if it works, I take the credit. If it fails, you're the scapegoat maneuver. And you need to be aware if that's happening and make sure that you're protecting yourself. I find it's generally reasonably rare, but it can happen. Watch out for being set up. Just want to check, did the previous explanation make sense to the person who asked the question? Was that good? To summarize that quickly again, making a multiverse map, just this green and orange map thing, helps your team to plan in the first place. And if that's all you do, that's great. It takes about half an hour and you've got something that helps people to figure out what they need to do and get aligned really quickly. You realize what it is that you need Team Squirrel to do in order for you to be successful. And so you think through what that looks like and you know what to build. And if you are able to then build on top of that and realize, hey, there's some places where we could do a probe, where we could do this sort of test, or some research, go and see what's really happening right now, then that's extra bonus. But it only costs you like half an hour to an hour, and you don't even need to plan it. I'll talk more about that later. In any case, when you've had this conversation, we're more aligned. We're aligned on what we're going to do. Either we know what targets we're really aiming for to feel confident, or we know that we have to do it anyway, in which case we can stop caring so much because it's just going to happen. Right, now we're going to go to the origin story, because that was a lovely story where we figured this out. But in reality, the build plowed on. In reality, what happened was the team were told to build this balloon finance service. The researcher they had on the team, who wasn't me, went away to find people to test the flow with, because they wanted to design a seamless flow. So he came back after a week and said, I actually can't find anyone who is in the market for this at all. Is that a problem? The team said, oh, just grab some people with PCP loans, whatever, it's fine. And so he went away and found a few people, and they went through the flow. The flow is fine. They know how to build these sort of credit check things. But they all said, this is a stupid product. Of course we wouldn't want this. So we went back to the team and said, everyone says they wouldn't want this. Are you sure we should keep building it? In reality, the build plowed on. No change happened. No tests were run. No further research was conducted. They built it. And it took 6 months to build. Not 3 months as they originally thought, but 6 months, because it's always harder than you think it's going to be. And then it was in the market for 3 months. Any guesses on how many customers they got? It is one applicant came in 3 months and they didn't get approved. So not as close, Diana. That's pretty bad. So it didn't really work out. And of course, the leadership then were able to say, well, you know, at least we learned from this. And if only we could have known at the start. And I was there with my head in my hands like, what? We brought clear evidence. There weren't any people in the market. The evidence was there in your face and it did nothing. And this was when this sent me on a whole spiral of like, wow, what are we even doing research for? Why are we talking about experimentation? I didn't last that much longer with that company. I went somewhere else instead. And over the next few years, developed tools like this multiverse mapping. And 5 years later, I found myself on an eerily similar project where a team saw an obvious solution. Now it was in like a recruitment space for healthcare. And they saw some data. They were data driven. They saw data that was taking too long for recruiters to get in touch with applicants for the first phone call, like the screener call. So they said, great, I know what they need. They need Calendly to stop all the telephone tennis. It's obvious that they need Calendly. Let's build a Calendly integration and we'll give it to all of our customers. And I just said, look, great, let's make a multiverse map of this, and we laid it all out. And then it started to become clear, we actually don't know how they're going to use it. Maybe we should find out. And long story short, at the end of the week, they had sent emails to 10 customers and asked them, hey, look, if we buy you a free Calendly account and set it up for you and just make it all good and easy, how about that? So they offered the customers basically free Calendly, and they said they were very confident that people would want this because it's obvious. So they said 6 out of 10 people will say yes, and that's enough for us to move forward. Any guesses how many people said yes in the end? If anyone said 0 or 1, that's it. So yeah, Diana guessed 10. Yeah, so sometimes you get the flip side. So sometimes these multiverse maps aren't pessimism fuel. They are, holy crap, we're onto something massive here. And that's a flip side story, which we'll tell in a minute. In this case, 0 people said yes. And this was a bit of a shock. What it did, though, was save the team 3 months of building technology that no one was ever going to use. So we celebrated that we're able to use that effort on something much better. which was really nice. And this was a nice mirror to that initial story when it all went wrong, and we actually managed to do something and it didn't go so wrong. So that was nice. Other use cases that I've used this for, well, one was discovered a successful new product in 3 months, and that was when it went the other side. And Diana, you put your finger on something. We had something where we sent initial rough draft product stuff to 30 customers, and we needed 16 of them to open and keep opening the email and look at this thing. The details don't matter. In the end, we had something like 40 people, so more than we initially even sent it to, because they were forwarding it to their mates and asking if they could get it next week too. At which point you go, whoa, let's build this thing. This is really great. And you've got a lot of people who you can talk to do more research, etc., etc. And you figure that stuff out. We did that in 8 days with a team. And it was rough and ugly, but it was highly valuable. And that was exciting. We were then able to refine it and build something that wasn't a minimum viable product. It was a really good product, and it's still being used today. Also hit a deadline despite a surprise tech failure. That's a really useful thing, because you're zeroing in on the places where you're most uncertain. Often you'll find that you realize, hang on a minute, that API is something we haven't really done something with before, and a developer will just go and run a spike and come back. In this case, we were planning to integrate with a very big company who'd written great documentation. The developer said, hang on a minute, we've never integrated with that. Went and checked, came back and said the documentation is 100% wrong. It doesn't do anything we thought we were going to do. Now, because we had just made a multiverse map, it was very cheap to change. We hadn't done detailed screen designs or anything like that. So within the first day, boom, we knew we could pivot, we could fix it, and we didn't have any sort of overnight working or any of that nonsense to hit the deadline. In progress, one of my students is potentially able to replace a 32 document process that takes months with some mapping, which is like co-designing with their potential clients. That's still in progress, but the level of savings of time this creates for people are not to be underestimated. I've got several testimonials now with people saying when a new team member joins, it used to take weeks and dozens of meetings, all this sort of stuff. Now they're contributing within 10 to 15 minutes of coming across this map. So it's really, really helpful for that, and it kills ideas that aren't going to work. So you have seen, I must say, for that 32 pages with one map, that is maybe a little bit over claiming at this point, because it's not actually fully gone through, but the early signals are looking quite exciting. So I should probably be a little bit less bold about that. But I'm quite bold about this. So from coffee to clarity, you saw success is what others do, not just what you ship. So that's a big thing. You can ship everything and still fail. And you can ship very little and succeed. It's all about knowing what the right things to ship are. You saw a little bit how to make the fog visible. And this fog of uncertainty is something that people will tend to be afraid of. And we tend to congregate around doing the stuff that we know and like doing because we've done it before and we feel good about it. And all the stuff that we don't really know about, we ignore it. But then when you chunk it down to the right level of granularity using a multiverse map and highlight, oh, here's where we're uncertain, I've noticed time and time again, people just go and start tackling it without having to be sort of cajoled into or anything like that. And to answer the question that just popped up, yes, people are often very busy, but they're having meetings, they're doing work together. I don't do this ever really as an organized session when I'm starting this out. It's not like, come to my workshop, we're going to do a workshop. It's just, we're having a meeting talking about this project anyway. I just start making a map. And then that map shifts the conversation. And we'll ignore the smile, take a picture. But that map shifts the conversation and opens up new possibilities. Now, it doesn't always work the same way. In fact, every place I've used it, it works slightly differently and you get different people reacting differently, but you shift things a little bit. And one way that I've been thinking about it recently is it's kind of scaffolding for product sense. Product sense is a term that's been thrown around. If you haven't heard about it, don't worry about it. It's not that important. It's just a sort of getting an intuition for what works and what doesn't. And I can tell more stories about that another time. What I find is multiverse mapping helps teams to get to grips with what their product sense needs to be, and they go and try things in reality, and they learn much more quickly than failing by shipping something every 18 months. Now, I just want to finish with one thing, if I can run over by 1 minute, which is you've got enough with this. You've got more than I had when I started figuring this out. So you could take this, just what you got today, that green and orange lines and the little pink stickies and the blue stickies, and you could figure all this out for yourself. I have given you enough. If you're a sort of technique nerd like me, someone called me a technique fetishist, and I think, yeah, that's fair enough. You can develop your own method based on this. You can remix it, do whatever you like. But if you want shortcuts, tips, and facilitation moves, that's all in the full course. And especially for you, I've done 25% off with these secret links, which are also in the Miro board, which you can also keep accessing as well. So at the top, you've got a few mini boards which have the links in as well. So I'd say, yeah, 25% off with those secret links. And all that remains is to say thank you so much to Debbie for inviting me to join this. And thank you so much for all of you for joining in and listening to my waffle.
No, thank you. That was great with a lot of interesting ideas. I know some of our audience noticed a little bit of cousin edge with some task analysis stuff, but any of these techniques that we can use to improve things before there is a mortem, always the best way to go. So everybody follow Tom on LinkedIn, and since there aren't any other questions, we're now going to take about a half-hour break. I'm going to leave this room open. I'm just going to go on mute, and when we come back in a half hour, I'll be doing my talk, and then we have 2 more speakers today. Join me also in the Discord, the free Discord, and let me know what you think of the first half day of the event. I'm open to all feedback. So have a great break, everybody. Tom, thanks again. And I'm going to also try to remember to stop the recording. Bye.